Alrighty, so we are live now, but we're gonna wait a few minutes as we get some viewers in. So what I'm gonna do now is don't need that there. I'm gonna grab this stream and just advertise it in a couple of places. And after this is done going live, I'm going to timestamp the episode so people could just skip over this beginning part, which is not too important. All right, so we are live now. And I'm going to grab, this is done going live. Okay, cool. And now I just have to grab, there we go. And shove this in a few different places. Test it in my Discord, of course, first. How would I like this? Crucible discussion. Live now. Okay, grab that. Stick that in a couple of places. All right, time to spam this into the various Discords. I think I'll skip all the other ones. I'm not too worried about them. I got it into the major spots, and I'll put this in. The Facebook one's actually important to do. The Conquest Facebook group. All right, last one I think. Edited. Why is it grabbing edited? It's so weird. Okay. Just waiting for this one post to go live. And last but not least, my Patreon. So my Patreon members know what is up. Now, they were told of this yesterday, but it's always good to link the stream immediately. And publish now. Bam. Okay, the places I wanted to share this has been shared. Let me pull up my little sheet here. And let me grab the timestamp so I can skip this for all the people that are going to watch this afterwards. Now I just need what the cool kids nowadays call a piece of paper. And there's a pad right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and... All right, guys, welcome to episode number 2 of the Gamers Shrugged podcast. I am Diego da Silva of 2 Plus Charge Infamy, and with me is my favorite host I've ever had on this show. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Jones and I am a Vanguard in Florida, and we just finished Crucible 2023 and wanted to talk about it. Thanks for having me, Diego.
Of course, it's always a pleasure having you on here. Last podcast, I had my camera on, and this podcast, I don't, because I'm currently working on my 2 Plus Charge studios, moving my computer around from one location to another, knocking down walls, and all sorts of things. So I had trouble setting the stream up, which is why I'm a few minutes late, but here we are. Anyway, moving past that, yes, we were at Crucible 2023 in Orlando, and it was fun. Was it not amazing fun, Mr. Mike Jones?
Oh, it was awesome. I have to say, we had Hunter from Parabellum come join us, and it was a good time all around.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Hunter, for flying in and helping with the event. Thank you for the Vanguard, Mr. Joe Hoffman, for running the event. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the players for showing up and making an effort to represent Conquest at this very nice, what was it, the Hilton? Is that what it was? I don't know. It was a
Yeah,
nice location.
yeah, it was Hilton DoubleTree on International Drive. It was nice. It had good restaurants nearby too.
Yeah, okay, so As you can see in this picture, we have just a couple of the tables set up here, and there are the chairs. And as more convention event goers showed up, people who were like setting up stalls for various events showed up behind us. They started grabbing our chairs during the events, and it became like a chair war of just trying to find chairs at this place and make sure that we were sitting instead of standing for 12 hours at a time and playing. That's what this picture reminds me of, the great chair wars of 2023.
Oh, so that's what happened. I didn't even realize.
Oh yeah, that's why the chairs were vanishing between day one and day two. Is because the as we went for lunch or we came in late in the morning or whatever, the other event individuals, people running various booths, would come by and just snag up chairs. And you know what? If I were them, I'd snag up chairs too. So it became a big snag fest. So, all right, the first day on Friday was the doubles team tournament, and the second day was the singles tournament. And this was the second team tournament that I've ever been a part of concerning Conquest. We've had the other one at Dogs of War, I don't know, maybe about like 8 months ago, 7 months ago, and that was really fun. And the tournament organizer, Joe, Vanguard Joe, he basically implemented more or less the same rules that we had in the past. And I think that the team tournament event went by smoothly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I it was my very first doubles tournament in any game. Much less Conquest, but it was a lot of fun. I play Wadrun, and I partnered with Paul, who had City States, and it was just we didn't plan it anything, but it worked out. It was a good combination of offense and defense, I think, and we were able to win our games.
So before I go into, I guess, any of the game specific, I do plan on making videos to go in depth about the game, but I wanted to also talk about more of the aspects surrounding the event. I do want to air something out, and this is the tournament app that we used, which is also the Parabellum Army Builder app. This is the first time that I've remember being a part of using this tournament app. I don't know if it was around when you ran the tournament. Was it?
The new Parabellum app is
Yeah.
brand new. Yeah,
Okay.
it's brand new.
Yeah, and see, that's sort of like, okay, a gripe I have, an issue I have, is that I understand that the app is in development. I understand that in a year or two from now, maybe 6 months, I don't know, the app will be as I would consider perfect. But at the moment, I do have to. This is the reason why I'm explaining it, because I can't look at army lists. I can't. I don't even remember the teams. Someone like me that has bad memory, uh, an app like Longshanks or Best Coast or Beast Coast pairings or whatever helps me out immensely when preparing for a stream or trying to remember an event. And I'm struggling to remember pretty much everything that happened this weekend because I can't look at a list. For example, if I just looked at your list, it would elicit memories of the game and would help me flesh out a better opinion about the event. But it's hard for me to come up with good anecdotes or good stories of the games for this stream in particular because I can't look at anyone's army list. I don't have all I have is my memory and these pictures, and that's not enough for me to give my viewers the full podcast experience. That's the main thing. I'm not really slandering the app itself because I know it's in production to be better, but I just wanted to give a mea culpa. I'm sorry for the quality of this podcast because it's basically based on my memory. For instance, I know that you and Paul were teamed up in the team tournament, right? Was it you and Paul?
Yeah, we were.
Okay, I don't remember his list. I just remember one block of hoplites, and you had stuff like so. I'm hoping that your memory will guide us a little better on this podcast than mine, and I hope
Yeah,
that in
cool.
I hope that in the future the podcast, I'm sorry, that the app expands, because I know there was also a London GT that just happened, and for a couple of days they were on the Longshanks, where I could look up names and look up some lists. But now that both the Crucible and the London GT are over, it's like those events didn't exist online. I can't find any information on them. I can't. And I was there. I was at one of these events. It's just gone, like in the sands of time, just stuck in the back of my Alzheimer's like old man memories, you know?
Yeah, to add on to that, I expect the player features will come soon. That as players will be able to see lists and see results. For right now, I guess it's just going to Parabellum's data collection. And you're right. I hope that people will use the Parabellum app and that it continues to improve. But switching from Longshanks or Best Coast pairings where the stats were readily visible, it's going to be like a black hole of tournament stats for a little bit.
Unfortunate but true. So let me turn off my capture cursor so now you can't see my cursor here. Yes. So do you have any, I would say, praises? Well, let's start with some praises. Do you have any positives of about the team tournament that happened? Anything about the mechanics, the games, the rules, how it was run, et cetera, et cetera? Do you have any positives for it?
Yeah, the team tournament, I thought it was fun. It was good, just to get people together, and what could be like a friendlier environment to start off the weekend. Like Friday, is at these GTs, like Fridays, not everybody may come into town yet. Like people will focus on Saturday, Sunday. For the GTs usually. But so it was fun. It was my first experience with player placed terrain, and that's not what was used for the singles event. But it was very interesting exposure. I got to learn some of the tricks, and we can talk about that more. But and then Joe and Hunter being there was fantastic. I thought it was a good time.
So you did touch on something, the player placed terrain versus the tournament organizer terrain. Now, on principle, uh, all terrain is player placed. Even if it's a tournament organizer, it's a person, and a person has to place a terrain. But the concept of player placed terrain, the particular about it, just separates itself from the idea that it's a tournament organizer placed terrain. And I know that may sound obvious to a lot of people out there, but keep in mind, 99.99999% of you Conquest players out there that just play games on a Sunday or Friday, all terrain is player placed. And the idea that player plays terrain is some like alien concept that must be tackled. Just keep in context that when I say you, it's not you in particular, Mike, just like you as the general, but like when you, the player, set up a game with your opponent, you have to place the terrain. It's always player placed. And I think that I'm going to make a video teaching people how to do player placed terrain, because when it comes to player placed terrain, I understand this view of it. Let's say you and I, Mr. Jones, were to sit down and play a game, okay? There is always this little air between, not always, sometimes there's this air between two players concerning terrain. It's as if, let's say the game experience was negative, being responsible for putting the terrain out falls on the shoulders of that one person that put the terrain out. Basically, on turn 6, if the game kind of goes one way, then one player will say, well, the game would have went one way if you didn't put that terrain there, or if the terrain was different. It almost seems like the terrain could either be a legitimate or illegitimate, i.e., emotion based excuse for how a game turns out. And what I like to advocate is that when it's actually player placed terrain, meaning one player places a piece, the other player places a piece and alternates, that that sticky air between the players kind of goes out the window because both teams in the end are happy with the placement of the terrain since both teams in the extent of the team tournament, but both players had a hand in putting 50% of the terrain out there rather than one person putting all the terrain out there and then taking the responsibility of the terrain. What do you feel about that?
Well, it's I wanted to talk about the terrain because I was thinking, I wanted to ask you, as a Nord player, with your new buffs to ignore terrain, um, did you experience your army rule? Did it help? And I know on day one and day two, it was player placed on day one and it was TO placed on day two. Did you feel a difference between the 2 days? And if overall there was no difference, then is there no justification then for spending the 20 or 10 minutes or however long doing player placed over just letting the TO place it? I wanted to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so your question is specifically about Nords and the difference between player placed terrain and TO placed terrain, and if I feel if there's no difference, does the TO just putting it out save time? Am I getting the gist of your inquiry there, sir?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And
so
based on
okay,
your experience.
so my experience, we had 3 games on Friday and 3 games on Saturday. So I had a total of 6 games. And basically, the entirety of my Nord special rules, all of them, not just the terrain one, the one that gives me a +2 to my charge, the one that does dueling, which I'll get into a little later, possibly. My rules came up maybe once out of 6 games, once or twice. It was more of a negative than a positive because every single time I got into a fight and my Jotnars were wounded to the point where they used to get flurry and they didn't get it anymore, I felt it. It actually hurt. Like not hurt emotionally, but tactfully, like in the game. Like, oh gosh, I'd rather trade in all the new Nord rules we have so Mountain Jotnars can get their flurry back. Um, Now, I will say this: the player placed terrain of the team tournament, even though the Nord rules came up next to nothing, I was in control of the terrain. So I don't feel any ill will towards the Nord rules because I was in control of it. But when it came to the singles tournament where I had no control over it, I absolutely loathed. Okay, that's kind of strong. I disliked the new Nord terrain rules because they just didn't exist at all for me. So out of the 6 games, I think I used the Nord army rules once or twice, just all of any of them, including the terrain rules. But at least with player placed, the power was in my hands. So if you look at this picture here, this was game one of the team tournament where I played Mr. Jones here. I had my teammate Jason, and Mr. Jones had his teammate Paul, and it was 2 Nords versus City States and Wadroon. And as you guys can see, the viewers, there is a water terrain under the zone to the north and a water terrain under the zone to the south. Okay? So I'm going to show you a little thing here. So as you can see in this picture, I have a mountain Jotnar way to the left. Okay? Way to the left. And my opponent, Mr. Jones, has a T-Rex, has an Apex over here on the north. Okay? Actually, let me turn the capture cursor. There we go. Now you guys can see the cursor. Okay, cool. All right. Now, my idea was to run the Mountain Jotnar flanking up the left side to possibly capture the apex or to grab that zone. But I had underestimated how fast apexes can move. His apex basically just in one turn just ran in. I think I have the next picture here. See, just kind of ran in and just destroyed my guys. So if I was smarter That's the best way I can put it. I would have kept this mountain Jotnar in the water to defend my zone because I can't score this zone. But I forgot how fast and aggressive Wadroon can be, and if I would have had that in mind, I would have had that Mountain Jotnar better positioned. So I had put the water zone under your zone, and then you had put the water zone under the water terrain under my zone, and I didn't utilize it. So because I didn't utilize it, it was 100% my fault. But when it comes to the singles tournament, where the terrain was pretty much wherever it was, I had no agency in using the terrain. Does that answer any of your questions? I don't know if it does.
Yeah, I think so. So it sounds like you prefer player based because then you have agency in the terrain placement, and you know terrain is so important to Nords now. Like it's one of their core army rules. So I can definitely see wanting to have that agency.
Yes, absolutely. I had played in tournaments in the past in my local area where the TOs, this was actually 1.5, I believe, maybe just after one, after two, I don't remember where the TOs intentionally nerfed. Oh, this is 1.5. This is when you could stand on top of forest and gain the elevation, and the TOs intentionally nerfed forest so my bow chosen couldn't be on top of the forest to get range or to get line of sight over people. So I had already played in tournaments in the past, which soured me greatly when TOs intentionally alter terrain rules to affect either a player or one army, and that was very sneaky, very underhanded. I did not like that at all, and it didn't happen in Crucible at all, but not having control over the terrain for the single player tournament as a Nord player was actually very crushing. It really bugged me. I don't know if I have any. I'll go over here. Let's see. We'll go to a singles table here. So once again, I'll do videos on these on my own. Oh, yep, that's the butt picture, right? So as you can see on this table here, uh, there's really nothing I can use terrain for. The water terrain is in the center of two zones, so it does nothing for me to hold. See the zone on the right? It does nothing for me to hold that. I think this is the first game where I played you, right? And yeah, that's you over there. And like, there's nothing here for the terrain for me. There's nothing. I can't do anything with this terrain. It doesn't work for me at all. Basically, I lost all of my Mountain Jotnar Flurry rerolls that would help me up against you in this game for nothing. There's nothing I could have done terrain wise in this game because I needed that water to be on a zone. I needed this forest over here on the right with the hindering to be on a zone. I need the terrain to literally be on top of zones. Having terrain off zones is completely as strong is almost entirely worthless in a war game where the intent of the creator is for regiments to do melee over points of interest. But when I do melee over points of interest, my army rules have take no effect. So in the first game, when I messed up my Mountain Jotnar in the water, that's me. I never complained about that to anybody because that was 100% my fault for being stupid and not putting my Mountain Jotnar in the correct spot. But in the singles tournament, it's almost like I had a weight on my shoulders. Like, ugh, it's like weird. It's like imagine you're playing, I don't know, Dweg, and you couldn't cast spells unless you were in a forest. I don't know, and you didn't have control over where those forests were. It's the same kind of feeling. As I wasn't a fan of the terrain changes for Nords at first. I was kind of excited for the changes, like in theory, but I knew that terrain placement based rules don't work in war games. Like in Age of Sigmar, you have terrain that the players can control and 40k terrain that the players can control, and even then they don't really use it because they're almost entirely worthless. So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on this?
on
And,
the
and if you disagree with me, let me know. You don't have to agree with me at all. You can call me wrong
well,
completely if you want. That's fine.
well the I do have to say that in the player placed situation, the terrain, the zones were loaded with terrain, so it was more impactful. Like Like as we can see in this picture,
Yeah,
there's water on on each of the small zones, and then the large zone is walled off by impassable.
yeah,
Uh, so the terrain in the player place was a lot more impactful.
yeah,
But I had some tables where the terrain, like in this one, the terrain was fairly symmetrical because it was two waters, two impassables, etc. But I had another table where there was one big piece of lava, that it was perilous, where you take wounds on a 4+
yeah,
for moving through it. So there was only one of those, and in those situations, it was a lot more impactful that the roll off of who places first was meaningful.
yeah.
Um, for me, I don't know if spending the extra 10 minutes to put the terrain is worth it. Uh, like in my events, I don't do uh player place terrain, but it's good to hear the input of players, because like now that terrain is impactful for Nords and Dwagam also, that they have magma based magic that wants to ignite terrain. uh it's good to get perspective.
If you look at this picture here, you see. Can you see my cursor on your side? I don't know if you can see
Yeah,
it.
I
Okay,
can.
this right here for the viewers out there, that's impassable and obstructing, so you can't see through it, and you. Excuse me, I have a little bit of burping here. My apologies. It's a You can't see through it and you can't walk through it. And I know from your point of view, just having these two pieces of terrain were kind of like maybe annoying or silly. Like, why would people do this? But I don't know if you've noticed this in this game, and I noticed it immediately, but I didn't mention it during the game. This house right here is saving the Hoplite Regiment because our Mountain Jotnars are running up the board. We have to go around this house to get in here to even fight you. But if I was able to bring this Mountain Jotnar and put it right here, that Hoplite Regiment is dead next round, which didn't happen because this house was tactfully blocking your flank. And even though the house hurt us, the Nords, the most, because it was player placed, I loved it. This protected the flank of the Hoplites, and it made it harder for the Nords to get in there and fight them. So even though in this particular picture right here, in this game, player plays terrain screwed me over specifically because one, I didn't use the water on the bottom left. That's a skill issue. And two, the house on the right, which is just south of the zone, screwed Nord flank attacks as well. I was 100% fine with how this was. It didn't complain about it once. It was fun. It was great because the players chose to put it there. Now, from a winning perspective, would I have wanted that house there to block the flank? No. I want to win and flip you off the table on round 3 and go home with my trophy. Absolutely not. But player plays terrain, I'm perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, as you guys can see in this picture here, getting the we have two ice Jotnars here and a mountain Jotnar trying to fight this one Hoplite, but because of this one Hoplite regiment, but because of this silly house here, which I agree with, it made the decisions so much more, I don't know, crunchy, fun, impactful. I was hiding behind this house so I could charge you without being charged right here. My teammate had to move the ice Jotnar up against the edge of the table, so when he charged, his only possible charge was straight forward, just to touch the corner of this hoplite stand. So to maximize engagement, this Ice Jotnar could not have come over here. It had to be over here. So having this house here provided very interesting charge lanes and tactical opportunities that, in the end, in my opinion, not to remove your team's skill, that's not what I'm trying to do, but this house basically saved that Hoplite Regiment the entire game. And once again, player plays terrain in this game, quote unquote, screwed my team over, but because the players had agency doing it, I was 100% fine with it, and I had a blast. I had so much fun in this particular game over here. Hey, Johnny, what's up? Good morning from Australia. Well, good evening from Florida. So what are your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, yeah, the houses were interesting. I do fear that the player place terrain, you sort of fall into the same tactics that it like if we were to play this table again with the terrain again, like it would we would fall into the same tactics like, oh, water in your zone, like, for maximum impact on the opponent. Wall off your regiments from the objective for maximum impact. So I think that the terrain, once we fall into those habits, it would be the same every table every time. Uh, uh, you know what I mean, or do you
I
disagree?
I don't have an issue with sameness. I don't know why that's a good or a bad thing in war games. If you play 40K, the GW, the Company Games Workshop, came out with suggestions of terrain placement, and the players love it because they don't have the responsibility of putting the terrain out and either putting the terrain that's overbearing or underbearing. I would love it if Parabellum would just create I would say, four different terrain placement suggestions, and then the players I'm playing right now, they would eat that up. Um, let's see, because right now, also keep in mind the genie's out of the bottle. Both Nords and to an extent Dweg will rely on terrain. So even though you don't want the terrain to be the same every game, I want complete control over the terrain as a Nord player. I don't want it to be the same. I want the terrain to go out where I need it so my army rule is at least passably effective. So now that genie's out of the bottle. Let's say no army had terrain rules. Then I could possibly understand having asymmetrical terrain as the standard and maybe even having it standardized. But because one or two armies now rely on terrain, that terrain placement needs to be in the player's hand to play Nords effectively. It's just hard to put that genie back in the bottle unless Parabellum just removes the Nord terrain rules, which if they do it, that's fine. Then we could go back to, I guess, asymmetrical tables and whatnot. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know if it's time to get rid of the Nord terrain rules yet, but I see your point. Um, maybe I just have bias in this that I prefer like each table being unique and different. And I just worry about the point I mentioned that like once terrain gets solved, whether it's player placed or it's a pre-made loadout recommended by Parabellum, like
Yeah,
that just makes the game simpler, less thinking on your feet. The terrain solved, you know where it's going to be, and you just pre-measure you buy your units, your upgrades, you pre-measure like I'll clear this house on turn two. I prefer the randomness to think on the fly, but that's just me.
yeah, but okay. To be fair, remember that. Uh, let's say I were to go to your house, right? Let's say I go to your house and you and I were to play a game, and it's your table, it's your house, it's your terrain. You spent $800 on your Wadroon. I spent $800 on my Nords. Well, at the moment, my $800 for rules includes terrain to make my models effective. So if I were to go to your house and you wanted this, let's say, terrain set out a certain way, I would say, well, that's unfair to me because this terrain is now vital to my army rules. So let's go with player place terrain. How does that what does that sound to you?
Well, I'm under the opinion that whatever house you play in, you play by that house's rules. So
Yeah,
like Joe, if he did player place one day, we play player place. If he does
yeah,
TO place the next day, I have no problem with that. But I
yeah.
see like from a monetary perspective, you're not getting the full power of your army just based on somebody else's opinion or
True.
placement.
The thing is, you didn't get my point. The point is, I'm an army that requires terrain, and if I go to your house and you put the terrain out, now I'm thinking, oh, you're putting the terrain out to benefit you because the terrain is no longer benefiting the Nords. So why would I want to play this person who's taking control of an aspect of the game that before wasn't part of the rules of Nords and to an extent Dweg, but now completely is. So I would see you as almost gaming the terrain to weaken the Nords. So then I wouldn't play you. Why would I play with somebody that denies me my army rules? That's just weird.
Well, I understand this is an
Yeah.
example, but
Yeah.
taking it to the extreme, you know, like would Nord players pull out of tournaments that aren't player placed because it's unfair? That's the extreme end of the example. I don't think they should, but that's the extreme example, and
Yeah.
I think players just have to realize that if you travel for events, especially, no event is going to be the same. So you have to come prepared for the worst case scenario, and it's
True,
true that
but it's
yeah.
unfair that I spent $800 and I go to, let's say, the Crucible single tournaments, and you spent $800, but the terrain doesn't favor me. Like the singles terrain didn't favor Nords, and it's even literally written in the FAQ and the tournament packet. I don't know if it's in the tournament packet. Sorry, the errata FAQ that if you're running a Parabellum back tournament, the terrain needs to be accounted for Nords, and it wasn't in the singles tournament. But I spent money to go to that to travel to go to the event just as much as anyone else. But for some reason, the power for my army was stripped from the other armies. It wasn't. It's what I call the Nord issue. This isn't whining. The issue is people don't know the Nord struggle until they play Nords. And now that the terrain is a vital part of the army rules, that stereotype is now truer than ever. You don't like Jason. He played Dweg, and he got into Nords, and he didn't understand all my whining. Now he gets it. Like he understands the trouble of Nords, and now it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be magnified even more when Nords go to tournaments. The whining is going to be even more against TOs, which is going to be, I think, unfair for TOs if they try their best to make sure the terrain is not symmetrical and that one side might favor the Nords over the others. But then the player has to win the roll off for the side, which I'm absolutely for. If a table is favoring Nords on one side and not the other, on principle, I'm all for the importance of that choosing the side roll. A little bit of randomness is okay, I guess. So did you want to talk about? Do you have any more opinions? Do you want to talk about terrain, or do you want to talk about something else?
Well, I mean, you can pick either. We can. I think we talked about terrain enough. I
Yeah.
I wanted to hear, like we've been talking about Nords a lot specifically. Do you want to talk about Nords more deeply with your experience from the tournament, or do you want to go into our games, or do you want to save that for individual battle reports?
I mean, we can go into our games here and just chat about it. I will just say once again that I completely felt like as a Nord player, I didn't have an army rule this time around. Like absolutely not. Like it just didn't exist. So I'll pull up. Let me pull this up here so you can see this right here. All right. Okay. So we have here Ice, Flesh, and Blood. Okay. Medium and heavy regiments from this army charging through a piece of hindering terrain can benefit from the inspired special rule. It never happened to me in the singles tournament. That didn't happen because, once again, the terrain wasn't put out specifically with Nords in mind. It was just kind of thrown out there. Which kind of, on a side note, when I went to Adepticon, that always annoyed me when I was there. The TOs literally were just throwing terrain on the table, and it was up to the players to kind of separate them apart. So on a lot of the tables at Adepticon, it was actually player placed because the terrain wasn't really tended to. But yeah, Ice, Flesh, and Blood, none of that mattered. No part of this came in at all during the tournament. Once again, during the team tournament, when his player placed, it was on me that I didn't use the water in that one game, and I'm 100% fine with that. Blood of the Einhar, this +1 to their attack characteristic only matters if you're taking giant blocks of Huskarls and Valkyries and monsters, but since monsters don't get this anymore, it didn't matter. At most, my single stand of raiders got an extra attack before they got destroyed, so that didn't happen. And this dual action here, hold on, let me show you a picture of this, where if a Nord character destroys an opposing character, it breaks that regiment, okay? Let me show you this picture here for game 2. So in game 2, I have, was it game 2? It had to have been game 2, right? I think so. I don't think it was game 2. What game was it that I fought a Dweg? Was it game 2? Or was it a local game? I think I'm mixing game. Oh, it was the local game here with Jason. I don't have a picture of it here. Where I was able to finally make my Conager run across the board. This is last week on Monday. I have the game up on my YouTube. Where I was able to get my Conager across the board and challenge his character to his duel, but his character was the Steel Shaper, the dude that could just now ignore duels. I was like, oh, come on. And then he just, I think he killed my Conager or something. I don't remember. But the dueling aspect of the Blood of the Ironheart never came up once. Not once in those 2 days. It's just sad. That in an inconsistent aspect of the game, dueling is part of an army's rule offensively is just yuck. And Prophecy Unfulfilled, no, not good at all. Why? Because in my games, as I'll show over here, let's go with the singles, I guess. Just zipping on over, looking for the singles. Right, so here's my game with you in game 1, and I'll go into detail on this in my own video, and we could talk about this a little bit if you'd like. But Prophecy Unfulfilled. While an enemy regiment is currently engaged by a friendly regiment, other non-monster friendly regiments add +2 to their charge. Cool. So if I get one regiment, let's say you see your Thunder Riders right here. If I get a regiment engaged with you, it gives my other non-monster Nord regiments basically a +2 to their charge. The issue is that the regiment that I wanted to get my charges on would be the monsters. So I have to get my raiders into you to give my monsters the bonus. But the way the rule is currently written, my elite heavy monsters are giving the bonus to my crappy chafe raider regiments. So this right here is a rule that, in my opinion, the designer is forcing Nords to build a certain way to disincentivize Monster Mash. Because at no point did I ever take part of that +2 to the charge. So that never came up either. So in my initial review of the Nord rules, I was actually very happy. And the important takeaway I had was this. Let's keep this in context. Keep this in context. I had said that at the top tables, the changes to the Nords aren't going to affect the good, experienced players. Players that were going to win tournaments before are going to win tournaments now. Because it's mastery of the core rules that matter in tournaments. And I think that mastery of the core rules help Nords out just a little better than other armies. Because we have to play very skittish, very scared. We just can't put regiments out there and then take charges and not die. But when it comes to newer players and they get into Nords, they're going to have a harder time enjoying the army. Because now they got to run through hoops to get these abilities off. And they have to build a certain way to get these abilities off. So if you're a new player and you bought, 4 monsters, you're not going to get the bang from your buck from buying the army. You're not going to do it because your monsters don't get affected by Prophecy Fulfilled. I'd like to see Wadroom players and their opinions if Parabellum said, okay, only non-monster regiments can benefit from chanting. I'm sure Wadroom players would be happy with that. Absolutely. Or, I don't know. It's just limiting. It's just really limiting. I don't understand why Nords get this limiting ability to build their armies. It makes me feel bad for buying models that don't benefit from the rules. When I look at other armies and all of their models, all their regiments, just works. It benefits. What if Wadrun said only cav can get shock, not infantry, or you know just mounted characters get shock. And I'm not picking on you because you play Wadrun. That's other armies would be the same thing. What if OD said I don't know, only infantry regiments could benefit from their dark powers ability? They'd be like, yo, what's this stupid rule? I mean, technically they have that with the Fallen Divinity, where if you take her in the army, only she benefits from dark power, and it sucks it away from the other army. And you know what people don't run in OD? The Fallen Divinity, because the Fallen Divinity runs counter to the rest of the army. It doesn't mesh well. So that's enough bitching and complaining for me about the Nords. Once again, I go to tournaments, I play local games. I'm going to beat people's faces in with Nords because I'm a good player, regardless of whatever handicaps Parabellum throws on me. It's newer players that get into the army that I worry about, and I want them to stick with Nords and keep playing with Nords. It's the same thing with chanting. Once you get good with chanting, you absolutely dominate players with Wadrun. And I'm sure old Wadrun players look at new Wadrun players who complain about chanting, and you give the same advice. Hey, learn chanting. It sucks right now, but once you get chanting ironclad, ain't no one gonna stop you. And that's my opinion. I think Wadrun are one of the top armies. Like once you get the chanting going, oof, that's a beautiful army. What are your opinions on all the ranting I just did?
Yeah, so a lot of topics you covered, but
Sorry.
but let me try to start from the beginning. You were going over the Nord army rules and
Yeah.
how they didn't come up in your game. So we have +2 charge for non-monsters. So that's pushing the army to be more infantry centric. And then we have ignore terrain, which is nice, but that's pushing you more towards player place terrain.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we have the duels. Uh, so that's pushing you towards dueling. So you're being pushed in these directions. I'm wondering, are you resisting the push, and that's why the rules don't feel to be helping you? Like I know you've had success with 6 Jotnar lists in the past. You're running 5 now.
Huh.
If you follow the push towards infantry, if you equipped your characters with dueling items so that they actually get kills and shatter regiments, uh, and you use the terrain to your advantage. Like you said, that one game you missed that water by a little bit, but had you used the water, like if you're following the push, do you think you would be rewarded or no?
Okay. Rewarded at my level, no, because in the singles tournament I came in third anyway, and I didn't use any of these rules pretty much because I've just played Nords for so long. I kind of understand wheeling and charging and distances. Like it's embedded in me. Um, so that's the thing. When I give advice, I'm very careful that the advice I give is at my level. I cannot give advice that other players can use readily because I went out and ahead and I basically own like 5 regiments of every Nord regiment there is, so I could build whatever I want. And I understand a lot of people don't have that ability to build whatever they want. So can I build an army to take advantage of prophecy unfulfilled? Yes. Can I build an army that takes advantage of dueling? I could. I have so many characters. Can I take an army that somehow takes advantages of terrain? Yes. So I don't want people to see that the advice I give or the critiques I give, it's like I'm crying because I'm not getting what I want. Whatever Parabellum does to Nords, whether it's negative or positive, I will take it, whether it's negative or positive, and roll with it and do best with the tools I'm given. I'm also aware that the Nord army is very hard for new players to get into, and it's those people I'm worried about. Now, to answer your question, like for instance, I went from 6 Jotnars down to 5 Jotnars. and I still came in third. Um, and in our game, the one game that I lost where you whooped my butt, it was like 358 victory points to 6 or whatever it was. I still think that if I had, this was a skill issue. If I had kept track and or remembered about of your charge distances, if I would have, instead of spreading myself on two sides of the board like what Nord's players should not be doing, and concentrated all my Jotnars on one side to get that flank, would I have won? I don't know. Would I have played better? Yes. So in our game, it was once again a skill issue on my part. So I, basically, whatever a Parabellum does for Nords, I'm gonna take it and beat people with it. And when I don't beat people, it's 100% on me. And of course, now the skill of my opponent matters. What I'm saying is, I'm not discounting your skill. Could I beat you every day? No, I can't, because you're a good player. You're unlocking the Wadroon power. Uh, You're becoming unstoppable with your chance and what you're. You, I think in the team tournament you picked uh, what was it? You picked famine, and then the singles you went death. Was that
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
Like
Yep, that's correct.
you switched your chance up and utterly crushed me. So players, your skill is up there, bruh. Like you're floating in a cloud above me. Like right now, you're Goku, and your hair is golden with Wadroon. Your chance can't go wrong. You're like on cloud nine perfectly. Um, and going from six Jotnars to five, if I had six, you'd still kick my butt. To be honest, that was just a matchup where you knew what you're doing. I totally just blundered into it, and it was 100% on me. Now, would I have beaten you if my Mountain Jotnars had Flurry, and I didn't have any of these extra rules? No. You still would have kicked my butt in that match. Having some rerolls wouldn't have mattered. You were still going to outscore me and collapse my flank and kick my butt. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, well, I guess so my question is like you're sticking with the same old, like you were six Yatnars, now you're five. Clearly the rules are trying to push you away from Yatnars towards infantry. Do you think with these new rules buffing infantry, if you had brought an infantry focused army, you would have done better, or Yatnars
Oh
like
God,
you
no,
is still the way to go?
no, absolutely not. Because against you and your list, you would have just destroyed Valkyries. You would have destroyed Huskarls. There's no, God, no. I actually don't know what I can do to beat your list in that game under those circumstances. I have no idea. Like I actually am at a loss. If I take all bow chosen, you can just charge 30 inches across the board and I lose. If I took all infantry, but you just charge me in the flanks, or you just charge me in the front with the Tauntor. Like I have no idea how to deal with the Tauntor. Like I actually don't. Uh, like like the way players fear my bow chosen, I fear the Tauntor. Like I have no idea what to do against it. I know that Alan was able to best your Tauntor, but he threw what at it, like Ashen Dawn or something ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
Nords don't have the equivalent of that. It just doesn't exist. People call Nords a glass cannon. Nords are glass. There's no cannon. Our only cannon were Jotnars with re-rolling hits, but that's gone. We've lost one of the barrels on our gun. Like I don't know what to do against you. I actually don't know. Uh, if I took Valkyries and buffed them up to be defensive, you, you just I don't know. You just would have destroyed them. I don't know what the counter to
well, I can
you
tell
know
you from my game with Alan, the
yeah,
Tauntor is has good volume of attacks and it's great at killing squishy targets. But against something that's
true,
defense four or
yeah,
higher, resolve four or higher, the Hundred Kingdoms, they have a lot of knights.
yep,
Alan ran Armor of Dominion that takes away cleave and line breaker. You know, like the Tantor bounced off of the household knights with his noble lord,
yeah,
and they were able to grind it down. So I think the Nords are vulnerable to quantity of attack because
Yes,
you have saves of ones and twos. Uh, Whereas my Wadrun weapons may excel against Nords, but they would bounce off Dweg or Old Dominion or something else, you know?
absolutely. And what I'm not doing is asking for any kind of nerfs. That's never the kind of player I am. Like if I lose a game, it must be the model or the rules. No, I am fine with the Tantor being like a direct Nord counter. I just want to know. Well, I'm not gonna. That's gonna go more into whining territory and Bochos, and yeah, because Nords used to have counters to other armies, but we just don't anymore. Um, Nords are in a very odd spot, which doesn't once again doesn't affect me too much because I know what I'm doing with them. I can shore up the disadvantages Nords have with just experience and skill. Um, so like I can tell you there's nothing in the Nord army that you are scared of. Like nothing. You take the Tantor and maybe the Ice Jotnar, but
Oh, Ice Yatnar is a killing machine.
possibly.
It's one of the models in the game because the Tantor and the Drum Beast, it's the most expensive like model in the game.
Yeah.
Like should it not be one of the most powerful? But the Ice Yatnar can kill it in one turn. With the Cleave 3, there's no saves between impacts, magics,
No,
13 attack.
there is no. Okay, now you get a little. You're doing what I'm doing. There is literally no way an Ice Jotnar can kill a Tantor in one round. That in one action, that one activation. It's just literally impossible. Cannot happen. Just not going to happen.
Well, yeah, everything would have to go right, but it has enough output uh, that it could for a lower cost because the kitted out Tantor with a character to give it fanatic is 445 points, I
Yeah.
think. So for way less than that, an Ice Yachtnar could almost kill it. To put it in perspective, like 2 rounds fighting Household Knights, uh, like they killed it with without even the impacts, just swinging. It's only defense 3,
Yeah.
uh,
So our Nord stuff only defense 3. That's the thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wadrun aren't the tanky army unless you go for it. Now, Tyler, another Wadrun player at our event, he had a completely different list. He went
Yep.
infantry focused Wadrun with War Chant and Brave blocks led by Queens. And I heard from him that he was very impressed with the durability that they can get the Braves up to defense 4, I think, with Blessed if at the tier 3. And that's the peak of Wadrun durability, which is about the same as Nords. I think you can get Valkyries to bless defense 4. So I think our 2 armies are on the lower end of the defensive spectrum, and that's about where they peak out.
Yeah. I still. Yeah. I see. Yeah. I guess that's the thing. Ugh. Valkyries. Good lord. Yeah. He had right here. This is the picture on the top left where he had his block of Braves, and I couldn't crack him, which I'll get into. I'll make a video about it and have my opinions there. But yeah, it was very different Wadrun army, very different list. Didn't have any monsters, no big guys. It was all infantry. It was very interesting. This is also a game where the terrain didn't favor Nords at all. Like none. There's nothing here that even remotely helps me out. But whatever. That's just I already talked about that earlier. So as far as Crucible is concerned, what first place was 100 Kingdoms, second place was you with Wadrun, right?
Yep.
And third place was me with Nords. So I think it was a pretty good spread of players. No Dweg in the final game, final day. There was a Dweg in the team games, but not a Dweg in the singles. I would have liked to have Dweg in the singles, but Dweg were not to be seen.
Yeah, there was no city states either in the singles. We had one, my partner in
Oh,
the
true.
doubles. So we had five out of the seven factions represented, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, good lord. Charging that hoplite regiment with I'm sorry, getting the bow chosen with the Conager close to the hoplite regiment, and then me telling my partner, yeah, you can duel that pole mark easily, no problem, you got this. And then having the Conager get completely drilled through the center of the earth by this not even kitted out pole mark was hilarious. That
Yeah,
was great.
so I mean, to take advantage of your army rule, like, are you ever going to consider buying some dueling items or never?
No, never. Because dueling is not in my power. Dueling also requires my opponent moving their regiments around, positioning. There's too much for me to do it. Like if I were to play against you, I can't duel your riders. I can't duel the dude on the Tantor or the dude on the Apex. They're immune to it. If I played this Dweg over here, I can't duel the Sorcerer on top of the Drake. Just dueling is not a mechanic that even exists in this game. You just don't do it. It happens when you're new. It's fun when it comes up once in a while, but absolutely not. Never. And like once again, when I did try getting a duel off, it was against a model that literally is now made of stone and can just ignore duels and not suffer the negatives for it. So no, I have only negative opinions about dueling in this game. Nothing positive about them whatsoever. Now,
But,
I am very aware that if Parabellum made characters like dueling too strong, then that would break the game. I get it. I understand why there's a possibility why dueling isn't stronger than it is. I absolutely get it. But as it currently stands, no, I would never make. No, because the regiments the Nords run around and die. Okay, if I put the Conager as a dueling beast and a bunch of Huskarls, it just get charged by a Cleave 2 terrifying regiment, which it's everywhere. Or Cleave 3 without terrifying, would just tear through them. It would just kill the dueler. Uh, Dueling works if you're like in a bunch of hoplites and they don't die, braves. I mean, it just doesn't work for Nords. It just does not work for Nords.
but let me
Yeah,
let me comment on that
yeah,
because I know that your partner, the other Nord player, Jason, he
yeah.
told me he has some success with some specific anti-magic tech that he took, and it didn't apply every game, but the games that it applied, it shut down. I think he said Mandrite from casting, and it was devastating. Do you
Correct.
think that like dueling, there could be situations where it would pay off or
Oh,
not in?
there's there are two different contexts there. One, we're talking about the Nord rune that costs 30 points once per game. It shuts down casting, and it was when I made the list, I had like 30 points left over, so I threw it on there. So it wasn't a plan that we were going to shut down casting. It was just a 30-point upgrade that I can cast anywhere on the table. And to even use it, I have to win supremacy and have the caster, the shaman, be the first card, which happened once, but never happened again after that because of well, we had to buy the third game, so we didn't play anybody. But we only shut down the Dweg casting one round and never shut it down again because we kept losing supremacy. So there was no point. So the context was this: one, spend 50 to 100 points specifically for a dueling character and then to maneuver him around the board to do a thing that sometimes doesn't happen versus taking a 30-point upgrade that I just have to be on the board to use. I just have to win supremacy. I don't have to like charge you or be in position. It's board wide. So those are two completely different things. They're not really the same thing at all. I would never build a list with dueling in mind because you would just chant, charge my regiment in the side, deny me my shield, and then just yeet my dueler into the sky. Um, yeah, dueling is just not viable in this game. It's fun. It's a fun aspect of the game, but it's not something a top table player would ever consider doing.
You know, they mentioned in a happy hour once that whenever the magic system is going to get revisited,
Yeah.
that a dream of theirs is to have magical duels as part of the game. That's something I look forward to. I don't know if it will come with the Sorcerer Kings update or later on or ever, but dueling is a great fluffy part of the game for me. I like it.
I absolutely agree. I love dueling, and keep in mind, I did say earlier, I don't want dueling to be too powerful because then it's oppressive and it'll break the game if you just instantly just duel and win. Like that's the difference between theory and practice. Is that a good idea in theory, but done bad in practice was never a good idea. It was a bad idea. If you have an idea to have a plane fly without gasoline, but have no other forms of energy, that's a bad idea because you need energy to fly a plane. So it's just a bad idea. If you want magic dueling, may sound like a good idea, but if physical dueling has this issue where you can't really do it effectively, then I don't see how what adding the word magic means nothing to me practically in the game. It's just a word tacked on to something I already know doesn't work. I mean, what is even magical dueling? Like your character's across the board, I'm across the board, and I could dual action you. So, wait, what? It, it doesn't even sound plausible. It sounds like it's either overpowered or it's going to make melee dueling feel inadequate and make those players bitch and whine. Why can't I duel a character from across the board and put a wound in his head from across the board, but and I don't have to make any effort for it. Now I don't know what magic dueling is. I'm just assuming that's what magic dueling would be. If magic dueling still requires physical contact, it'll just be as useless as tits on a bull or as dueling in Conquest currently is. I love the idea of it. It sounds fluffy, but it has to be practical in the game. Just like the idea of Nords being these fanatical Viking raiders sounds great in theory, but in practice, they're one of the slowest armies and they're just not as offensive as other armies. It just doesn't work. The identity just still isn't there. Looking for that Nord identity. Um, I like the idea that the designers, the creators are trying their best to make armies feel fluffy and wonderful, but in my opinion, Nords aren't there yet. Can Nords be competitive? Yes. Can Nords win tournaments? Yes. But it takes a lot of work to get there. Um, I think that's everything we covered concerning the Crucible. Unless there's anything you want to bring up, or maybe I said something that you disagreed with.
No, no, that was a great chat. I don't know if do you want to talk about did you get to play any Spires or Dwegum that you want to talk about their changes or not enough experience with that yet?
So the one Dweg game that I did not play any Spires. No, actually, kind of ironic. Hold on. Our second team game was against a Dweg Spires team. It was Tree Monkey and John, I believe, that played Spires on the right in this picture and Dweg on the left. And I the supremacy that the Spires player took was the one where they draw 3 cards in the row. I don't even know if he was under Spires. Do you know if he was under Spires or not?
No, no. To get that draw 3 cards,
Yeah.
that means the high clone executor was
Okay.
his warlord. So he was probably a superior creation list, not an underspire
Ah,
list.
thank you, thank you. See, once again, this is where I don't have any ability to pull up any information from this tournament. That's kind of irking me on a personal level because I can't provide the low standard quality I normally do to my viewers. Now it's like below that standard. As far as the Dweg is concerned, the Dweg player. Let's see. Any changes? No. Let me go. Let me go. See, I have to look at pictures to rekindle my mind here. Keep in mind these lists were also 1,000 point lists. So it would be unfair for me to judge either army change based on the team game's sovereign lineage. Hey, Tree, there you are. All right, thank you very much. So no, I couldn't judge the Spire's changes because I didn't play a single game against the Spire's changes, nor could I judge the Dweg changes because I didn't play a single game against the Dweg changes. I will say this: my Dweg opponent John did have the supremacy to cast two spells, I believe. As you can see, his Warcaster is right over here on top of the Drake. But because Fireball got nerfed from 16 inches to 14 inches, and Flame Wall doesn't exist anymore, I wasn't too afraid of his spells anymore. Um, there were other intricacies of this match that factored into my team winning. One being that my teammate and I completely brought an illegal list to the team tournament. We weren't supposed to bring two of the same faction. I just want everyone to know that that's not a secret. That we were supposed to bring either I was going to bring Nords and Jason was going to bring Dweg, or vice versa. But I had completely forgot about it. I last minute the night before or whatever came up with this Nord list and said let's do it. So bringing an illegal list to the teams tournament 100% was on me. um, so just putting that out there. And in our game here, the Dweg was hitting me with some spells, and as you can see here, he was killing my regiments. But no, your question is, could I judge the changes to Spires or Dweg? No, I would be ignorant to judge their changes based on the team game. Let's see, slightly fewer tempered creed tokens is what my chat is saying. Yes, slightly fewer. Oh yeah, more like none. I don't even know if he had any this game. I don't remember. Um, but no, I have no opinions on Dweg inspired changes.
Yeah, and I think that the rule on no of not having two of the same armies is a good rule because I was thinking of some powerful combinations and like to have double spires, for example,
Yeah,
where you have two high clone executors that draw three cards each,
yeah,
you can get six cards to your opponent's one and just table them.
I,
So,
I, yeah.
it's
I'm laughing because you're correct. There are some strong combinations, and I also wanted to put this out there. The worst one is double Nords because we can't get five Jotnars in a list. We can only get two on both sides. So we couldn't even get the fifth Jotnar on the table. We were like scrambling to make a decent 1,000 point list, and it was so bad. It was,
You can, to be able to get fifth, that means one person would be able to get three, and that means both would be
no,
able to get three. So you would jump from four to six.
no, you can't. You physically cannot get two Jotnars in a 1,000 point list. It's impossible. You can't do it. We've tried. We tried we couldn't do it.
Yeah, but I wanted to say, I know that you like to run five mountains, I think. Um, but Jason's list, I believe in the paying the extra points for the quality of the sea Yatnar
Yeah,
and the ice Yatnar. I think the sea Yatnar it was undervalued for a long time. It was just a worse ice Yatnar. But
yeah,
but now with that Fiend Hunter and it still has evasion 2 and
yep.
it was very good. I think it's worth paying the extra points, but what do you think?
No, you're 100% correct. Everything you said is correct. My list, which I'll go into in depth in another video, I brought two Bow Chosen lists and a Conager list. So people out there see my five Jotnar list as the typical spam. No, I actually tried something different. I went with a combined arms. This is the first time, I think in 10 months, Diego, that's me, went with a list that was either not all ranged or not all melee. Did anyone notice? Did anyone slap me on the back for saying, good job, Diego, for taking an actual balanced list? No, no one did. I could have not have brought those Bow Chosen and brought in the ice and the sea and pretty much had the list that Jason brought. Now I didn't know what list he was bringing in, but I did. I had that choice when making my list on either five mountains with a couple of bow chosen, which I'm not fond of bow chosen at the moment, or go with I had a list with 4 sea Jotnars and a mountain Jotnar. I was gonna run that, but I don't physically own sea Jotnars, and I my Jotnars are all blue. I was gonna swap out their trees for like anchors in their hands and just call them sea Jotnars or something, but I was too lazy last minute, didn't want to do it. But you're correct. Currently, if you have a choice between running a bunch of mountains or consolidating your armies slightly to bring in an ice and a sea for their utility, I agree with you 100%. Do that instead of spamming mountains.
Yeah, because the mountain, the nerf of the 20-point increase, that's specifically enough that you can't take six. It's
Yep.
impossible.
Yep. I
And
think trying you can bring it's 210 points or 220, so exactly on the mark. You can't do it.
yeah, so I felt like the 20-point jump plus taking Flurry away was a lot of nerfs all at once, but I know why they picked 20, just so you can't have six. But the mountain, we'll have to see. Like, it's still early. Like, we had this one big tournament. You got third place with 5 mountains over the ice and the seed list that Jason brought. So maybe mountains and quantity is still
Well,
still the way to go.
that's also a skill issue. I'm way more experienced playing Nords than Jason, and that does matter. I don't people don't like talking about skill because they always feel like they're going to offend somebody. No, it's not a moral thing. When I say I am more skilled than you, I know in conversation people have this like Marxist idea that if you are superior in some way, you're either saying that I'm bad or you're good. No, that's not what measurements of judgment are. I am more skilled than Jason when it comes to Nord, so I will win more games. I don't want people out there to think that, you know, my list was just better than Jason's list because that removes the players and that does a disservice to all the time I've put in learning my list. Would I have done better with Jason's list? You know what? I don't know because I think Jason is slightly more experienced playing that list than I am. Like, because I also now play Dweg, and Jason has been playing Dweg for 10 months. He is better than me at Dweg. He is more skilled than me. So if we were, I just want people to be careful with judging lists without the context of the players behind them, because that's also what's important. And not that I'm like attacking what you said, just for people out there who listen to advice, don't just go, "Oh, Diego's list is better than Jason's list, so I'm going to go play Diego's list and win games." No, that's not how this works. You need the experience behind it. Like I can't pick up Wadroon and be as good as Mike. That's not going to happen. Mike is infinitely a better player than me with Wadroon. He knows how to do his chants. He knows his distances. If I picked his list up, he would cream me for like 4 months until I finally like figured it out. Um, so I don't understand this like nerf from 6 mountains to 5. That's just like a numbers thing. I don't know why you'd want to limit someone's collection to bring on the table. That always bothered me. It's a very philosophical thing that people have an issue with numbers instead of the context of the thing in the game. Because I'll kick most people's butts with 6 Jotnars or 5 Jotnars. It doesn't matter to me. All it does is limit the amount of money I'm going to spend in an army to bring the 6 Jotnar onto the list. But that's like more of a personal gripe. I don't like limiting players. I want to see Tree. I don't know if he's still in chat because him and I are both building the same list. Um, where we want to bring like 6 or 7 or as many abominations as possible for spires and learn that list and then pilot that. And then in 6 months from now, that's going to be the list that people are going to say, "Oh, that needs to be nerfed." With the context being dropped that, no, well, Mike's just really good with spires. And if you were to try to run 6 abominations, you'd get creamed. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I guess yeah, we want to run some janky lists. And to be fair, the list that I run, it's not like I look at a model and immediately think mountain Jotnars are strong. I want 6 of them. That has never been what I did. When I ran all bow chosen, it's because I wanted to blot out the sky. I wanted these cool ass models. Yes, it was actually was a no, no, that's not true. Okay, I have to stop myself. That list was specifically designed for the Dweg issue in the area. That the meta defining Dweg. Whether they're meta defining now anymore, I don't know. But when I made my all stalkers list, I just wanted to shoot. When I make my all raiders, I just want to punch. All giants, I just like having. That's what I value in a war game, is just having uniformity in the models on the board. Like, oh, these 6 giants are coming around and attacking people. These 6 abominations are tearing people up. I used to play all trolls in 1.5. Like, I'd like to play trolls again, but the trolls are just unusable at the moment. I just like having a lot of the same unit on the board. Just like a lot of players like to have variety. They don't like having the same Ashen Dawn cut and paste 20 times. They want to have Household Knights and Ashen Dawn and crossbow mercenaries and Gilded Legion or whatever. I get that. So that's why I like spamming stuff. I just like the appeal of it on the tabletop. It's also less cognitive load because I just can't keep track of things during a game as well as you or Tree Monkey here in the chat or other players. I just can't. You guys have played me, please. How many rules do I mess up and roles do I mess up in a game that makes me look like a complete doofus every single round? And that's not even an exaggeration. It's hard enough
Uh,
for me to keep track of the rules, and all I'm doing is spamming Raiders and Jotnars, and I still don't know what the hell their class statistics are.
nah, you're too hard on yourself. You play fine. You know your stuff.
Oh, you're being very kind. Thank you, sir. You're being very kind.
I was looking at the Nord chat on Discord, and it sounded like some people were having success with the Fenner, the new Fenner with terrifying and
Yeah.
Huskarls and trolls. Like those units have all gotten buffs at one point or another. Like, do you think you're going to experiment with them soon, or no?
So the Fenrir change. Let me see if I can pull it up here without. Hold on. Give me a second. This will just take 1 second. Conquest Army Builder. Boom. Boom. Browse faction. View faction. Fenrir. Woof. Here we go. Right here. Fenrir. I think I could show this, right? Nothing. Yep. Okay. Cool. So that's the Fenrir. Since I used to use them, they went up in 30 points, and their offensive output hasn't changed. So the way I'd use them now is exactly as I would use them before, and I just don't see a reason because I used to take one regiment, and I own 2 regiments of them, and if I were to take 2 regiments of them, that's 60 more points. That's a little too much. Uh, um, their usage hasn't changed. It would be the same thing. I'd still then run them up the board to flank and then attack regiments on the side and take markers. Um, no, they're just on my shelf gathering dust. They're just too expensive for their job. They did their job before at 110 points, and they do the exact same job now. And the issue of terrifying, I don't bank on terrifying mattering because OD exists. And as long as OD exists, I don't see rules like terrifying as a positive. I just see it as a tax on Nord regiments that don't matter in a tournament setting. It's just a hindrance. It would hurt me. My last game I had against Caesar and his Old Dominion, if I would have had a Conager as a warlord and Fenrir Beast packs, I would have just been creamed. I would have wasted an entire army rule. I think Nords, I've talked about this on Discord, Nords are the only army in the game, the only one, where a supremacy is completely turned off simply by the opponent taking a specific army. It's like, imagine Dweg double casting just doesn't work if your opponent brought Wadroon. Just you can't cast spells. Dweg players would be like, "Yo, what the hell is this? This is stupid." That's how I feel with the Conager. The Conager needs a new supremacy. I know that's going off on a tangent, but it's the terrifying issue. As long as OD exists, having terrifying is just it's negligible. It doesn't matter. Um, as far as people and their experiences with Fenrir, whenever those conversations come up, context is never given. All I'm told is, hey, I used Fenrir, they worked. Anyone can type anything they want in Discord without any evidence. So that's why I give at least my explanation that the reason why Fenrir don't work in my area is because Josh exists and he's good with OD. Now Caesar exists and he's also good with OD. And just sinking points into a regiment that is terrifying as a rule is just not something I would even waste my time doing in a tournament setting. And I've explained this on Discord as well. But then Diego, don't take the Conager Warlord against OD. But then that's list tailoring. Now I'm bringing two different lists to the collective. And if I fight Caesar, I take this character, I take the Shaman. And if I fight you, I take the Conager. And no other army is in that position. It's not like I play Wadroon and I take two different warlords, and depending on who I fight, I'm going to switch it up. No, you take the dude that gives you a shock all the time because it works 100% of the time. And a lot of players also don't like list tailoring. I don't mind it, but I don't know if my opponent likes it. So I don't want to put them in that position where I just show up and Caesar notices that I don't take Conager against him, but then I take it against you. Then the question is, Diego list tailors, and that matters in gaming circles when you get known as the player that list tailors. Because once again, I'm all for list tailoring, but that has a negative outlook in a lot of gaming circles. So that's not something I even touch, tailoring my list. Um, Hopefully that answers your question about the Fenrir. Would I take it? No, because OD exists. And their job hasn't changed from before. It's the same thing, just more expensive.
What
Um,
about Huskarls and Trolls that also got some love recently?
Huskarls is the one I want to try because they actually got a decent change where, right over here on the right side, where they get untouchable. So let's say my Huskarls. Oh, Caesar's in chat. Hey, he doesn't care. Okay, cool. I want to list tailor you, bro. I mean, I don't know how I can because list tailoring against you doesn't really work because I remove the Conager. It's other people where I put the Conager in that might matter. But either way, that's nice to know that doesn't matter against you. Thank you for letting me know. So for the Huskarls, we get untouchable. Reroll sixes. Cool. That basically gives us a +1 defense if you think about it. So our Huskarls defense is a 2. With the shield, it's 3. And then if I'm able to activate them first, they become a 4, right? Now,
Yep.
if you were to, let's say, attack them, 4s and below pass, and 6s are rerolls. So you could almost say, this is not fair to say this, you could almost say Huskarls have a 5 defense because I'm going to reroll that 6 into a 4 or less. That's not how the math works. I get it, guys, but you could almost say Huskarls are like 4.5 defense, right? 4.5. And they can get decent resolve, etc., etc., etc. I have not run Huskarls yet. I've only heard good things about it in Discord. Once again, no context is given about the regiment. But I am actually excited to run Huskarls in a couple of lists. So I think what you said earlier, incentivizing not running monsters because of the what is this? Prophecy Unfulfilled. That might work into a more infantry-based list, which will include a brick of Huskarls. The thing is this, the ironic thing is that even with Untouchable, Valkyries mathematically are still better because of Blessed. They are still
Not
actually better.
against not against shooting.
True. Also, Sorry, I'm yelling in the mic. I apologize. I'm very excited. Against Cleave 2 and Cleave 3, I think the Huskarls are better because the Valkyries, let's say I went off first with the Valkyries and you cleave 2 right into them. I'm re-rolling 2s, whoop-de-doo, right? Or Varangians, I'm re-rolling 1s. At least with the Huskarls, the cleave doesn't remove the re-roll 6s. So I get to re-roll that again. But that's all that is blessed. No, the blessed is still better. See, I'm trying to figure out a way of making the Huskarls better, but the Valkyrie unfortunately fill a role that's better. The only difference between Valkyries and Huskarls is that Valkyries are in the Volva Warband, and you have to build your list around it, while the Huskarl is under the Warbands, like over here on the right. Huskarls are now, they're just mainstay for, right here, for Conigers, and I think Jarls? Yeah, Jarls, yeah. So they're mainstay for two decent characters. So the difference between Valkyries and Huskarls is a build issue, but Valkyries are just slightly better on defense. I was shocked when Huskarls got the untouchable because I thought that they were going to go more offensive with Huskarls since Huskarls have impact too. I thought Parabellum saw that you need to have extreme design in regiments in Conquest. If you have regiments that are just middling, no one takes them. They serve no purpose. You need regiments to differentiate themselves. And with Nords, you would take Valkyries as the defensive versions because they don't have impact built in. And Huskarls, I thought they were going to make something weird with impact. I don't know, make them impact 4, make them impact 3, reroll 1s. I don't know, just something with impact. But they went with a more defensive thing, but it didn't solve the Huskarl issue. Valkyries are just still better defensively than Huskarls. And ironically, if you want, with Blessed, Valkyries are better offensively. It's just a better regiment all around. If you own Valkyries and you can fit them in a list, you would just take them over Huskarls 100% of the time.
Yeah, the Huskarls, I like the change to Huskarls. I feel like they're good anti-range tech because you get the reroll sixes.
Yes.
You can run forward at defense four, and you can march and charge and get impact two and just slam into the enemy, archers, and do, archers to typically have low defense. Uh, maybe pick up a stand for free on the way in. So I like it, but I would like to see Huskarls maybe get the treatment of the veteran status where they get like the difference between legionnaires and praetorians in OD, that the 4 attacks 4 wounds, praetorians are 5 attacks 5 wounds. I would like to see something like that for Huskarls where they're halfway between the 4 attack 4 wound raiders and the 6 attack 6 wound blade chosen, like, as
Yeah.
just like a step in their their veteran status.
Yeah,
That
I'd be okay, in my opinion, if Huskarls had a more slightly offensive take. If they went to 5 attack but stayed 4 wounds, that's okay. Or if they went stayed 4 attack with 5 wounds, that would be okay. I Because if they go 5 and 5, their cost goes up, and then Valkyries become an instant no-brainer. Because for Nords, cost matters, and as soon as one regiment costs 15 points more than another, and you're not getting much out of it, you just don't take the other regiment. See Trolls for that unfortunate issue. Because on paper, Trolls have a lot going for them, but because they cost just more than Valkyries or Huskarls, just don't take them. And because they don't cost that much more or less than where's that guy? Mountain Jotnar, you don't take them. They're just stuck way in the middle and don't do anything important. They don't stick out, in my opinion. Um, I'm going to give Huskarls a try. Next time I go up to the collective next week, I'm going to bring a more infantry oriented. I think I'm going to pivot towards infantry oriented Nords. And what I want to do is I don't want to run into fluffy Wadroon list or Caesar. I don't want to run into your fluffy OD list. I want you guys to bring the heat I want you guys to bring that Wadroon heat and that OD heat and try to mash my Nords into the ground.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm excited that you're gonna try because like
Hell yeah.
what I was saying earlier in the chat is that like PB is clearly trying to lead you in a direction. Like right now you suffered the stick, but maybe try follow the carrot and maybe you'll find you get what I'm saying? Like follow the carrot to where they're leading you and maybe you'll have more fun and maybe more success.
Okay. So let's be fair. Let's be fair. Success, I'm doing just fine. I can whip people's butt with Nords, and I did very good in a tournament. So success is the issue, isn't the issue. Do I have fun? Yes. To be fair, the fun is because my opponents in my area are so much fun to play against. You guys are a ball up in Orlando. My local yokels over here in Melbourne, Palm Bay are also very fun to play against. So once again, my objective, even though people see it's a negative tone, it's not. My objective tone is for a game I love. When Jason came into my studio on Monday, he was like, Jesus Christ, Diego, I didn't know you owned so much Conquest crap. Like, he just saw a shelf. I have so much stuff people don't even know. I just love this game so much. And, oh, I'm definitely in Parabellum's pocket. They own my wallet. Absolutely. And I am excited to follow the carrot to try out more infantry based Nords. Absolutely. So I'm a little bruised and battered from the stick, which I think was hilarious when you said that. That made my night. Thank you very much. And I'm now going to kind of just go for the carrot and just follow it. I think I've had success bucking the trend and making my own lists over the past 12 months. I think the one real list I haven't tried is actually an all infantry list. I did try it one time, to be fair, and who was it that came into the store? So I played someone. When you watch this video, please let me know. I brought two Huskar regiments. I brought two Valkyrie regiments. This was maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. I tried it. I think I actually have a video of this on my channel somewhere. My opponent brought Dweg, and he brought infantry Dweg, which was my literal counter in Conquest, and he whooped my butt. he he brought the Dweg when the Steel Shaper or whoever could heal. No, he had the supremacy that you wouldn't break. So I'd break his regiment, but they wouldn't break because their regiments could unbreak out of sequence once per game. And that's I was banking on breaking regiments and I couldn't do it. I was like, Dweg, why you do this to me? Always.
Diego, was that game like started you on your journey of your Bow Chosen like arc storyline?
No. My Boat Chosen arc storyline started in 1.5 in Old Dweg. This was only about like 2 or 3 months ago where I tried infantry Nords just once, but I ran against the Dweg wall. It wasn't that player's fault. It's not Dweg's fault. I've never played a Dweg list like that before, and I've never played one since. It was just what you would say a coincidence. So I'm going to bring back my infantry Nords. When I went to the collective, when I showed up with my Dweg list, was it a standard list? No. I brought all ovens. I didn't know if it was going to be good or if it was going to be crappy or too expensive. Like I couldn't hold points. I didn't know. I just brought it, and it worked out pretty well. But
Oh yeah. The
yeah, I just want to try out all ovens because I like the look. It wasn't because I systematically and mathematically thought that they would be overpowered and I could win games. I just like the look of all these little eggs and ovens running around the board. A little too fast, in my opinion, but whatever.
Yeah, the week after you played it, the Dwayne got the speed 7 on the
And
automaton.
that's what I was telling
It
Jason. I was telling Jason because in our game that I had on Monday on my channel once again, Jason I think asked me, or maybe someone at the tournament asked me, wow, what do you think about the Dweg changes for the Infernal Automaton? I told him, could have been you, I don't remember. I told him it doesn't bother me one bit because when I played with the Infernal Automata, I was using them as if they were March 7 anyway. I had forgot they were March 18 and I'm sorry, March 8 until late in the game, where I think I nudged my Flame Automata up like an extra 2 inches against you. So I'm like, oh, I forgot. They're March 8. Nudged them up. But it was already after like 3 or 4 rounds of them running across the board at March 7. So I'm fine with the nerfs because I was playing them like that anyway.
They got cheaper. So in your book, that's a sneak buff.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got 10 points cheaper in exchange for the point of speed.
Oh, they also went down one clash, which I'm
Yeah.
actually very fine with. They went from clash 3 to 2, which is good. A light regiment running that fast is a sin that they were clash 3. Good lord. I'm happy with how they are right now. Perfectly
Yeah,
fine.
but you have a track record that you bring the bow chosen and then they get nerfed. You bring the six Yatnar, they get nerfed. You bring the like nobody even knows that in like some small shop in the middle of nowhere you're playing Automata. They
Uh,
get nerfed
uh,
the next week.
a week before the nerfs, I fielded 9 Infernal Automata and 6 Steel. What are they called? Steel Forged?
Yeah, so
Yeah, I brought 6 of them, and then a week later, my beautiful list got nerfed. But it was way too powerful. It was not okay. It was overtuned. I was even telling you that during the game. I was like, no, it's not okay.
yeah, but anyway, I'm excited to see your Huskar list and um yeah, and to everybody at home, like just keep experimenting.
Yes.
I am happy that we get about update every quarter. And I think that for Nord specifically, we have the Lord Vargir on the way, that fantastic werewolf model that you we're going to see what he brings to the table, and I think the Nord update is probably just a portion of what's coming. Like you got a half
Yep.
update, and the rest is coming. So we'll see.
Yep. So if anybody wants to timestamp this, at least 14140, just I don't know, share this around. Parabellum is a wonderful company. It is run by very imaginative individuals, and whatever errors they may have committed in the past with design or whatever, they have more than enough fixed their ways by improving the game in positive ways. Any of my issues with the Nord rules as they are, it's my opinion that the Nord changes weren't effective, but the fact that Nords were altered in such an amazing way shows that the designers in Parabellum are not afraid of trying new things to improve the fluff, the feel, the look of their game, the love the players have for the game. And I absolutely have admiration for the designers and creatives in Parabellum for having the balls and the guts for changing armies so drastically, um, to make the game a better vision of what they want it to be in the future. So if they're dangling that carrot out in front of me, that's perfectly fine. I'll eat that carrot because I know that this company, that the individuals running it, are doing an amazing job that I rarely, if ever, see in other wargaming companies. Easily. Awesome stuff, PB. Y'all rock, yo.
Yeah, I agree. Parabellum is the best company. So,
Easily.
uh, just in wargaming, that it's great to be a part of it. And the game's still young. It's
Yeah.
it's great. It's great to get in early and just watch it keep growing and growing.
Yep, 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 absolutely. Well, I think that might do it for today's little podcast. Do you have anything left that you wanted to say before we hop off the air?
No, I glad we got to talk about Crucible. Congrats to Alan with the 100K victory. Very very skilled player. He brought actually very balanced list. 100K is in a good spot right now. I think a lot of armies are in a good spot that very a lot of armies are very competitive. I don't know if there's any like outlier that's like so grossly overpowered anymore. The and then we had the London GT just finished. They played with the old rules. so Dwagum first, um, Quadroon second, and then Spires third. And yeah, we just have to see the results coming up. Hopefully, the Parabellum app, like we mentioned, gets updated. We can see more stats. But it's a great time for Conquest right now.
Yep. The game is still new, folks. The meta has not been found out unless you're in Central Florida. Then you're going to face the real meta. So don't be discouraged when you play your games. Have fun. Learn from them. The game is great. Just keep buying more regiments, trying new things, proxy them with your friends. Just run naked stands before you make any purchases. And then once you're happy, just go buy the models, paint them up. They're beautiful. Put magnets on them. Just enjoy the hobby. Have fun, right? Don't fall for the overt positivity or negativity you may find from people like me or others. Okay, have an objective mind, and with the group that you play with in your local area, have fun and enjoy the game. You know, so go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Diego. That was a great one. Thank you.
Thank you. You actually opened. Thank you for today because you kind of opened my eyes a little bit on running infantry Nords. I was never planning on running infantry Nords until you just literally said, "How about you just run infantry Nords?" And I thought, that's really good advice. I'm gonna run infantry Nords. I'm gonna give that a shot.
I just said like clearly there's a carrot right now
Yeah,
waving in front of you.
and I agree with
So,
you.
so
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see that. Something as when we went over the Nord rules, and I was bitching and whining on how every rule contradicts the other and wants you to build stuff that doesn't work together. You pointed out the one thing. Yeah, forget about dueling and infantry and all that stuff. I'm sorry, monsters and dueling. How about you just do infantry where it all works? And dude, it clicked. You made perfect sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that a shot. Thank you very much.
no problem, and look forward to our game next week. And take care, everybody.
Hell yeah. Have a good night, people. Thank you for watching. Peace.